I never thought I'd be in a situation like this. I mean, who does? I met Emily when we were both in our late 20s. She seemed perfect at first, smart, funny, ambitious. We got engaged after 2 years of dating, and everything looked like it was heading toward a fairy tale. We had plans, dreams, a future that seemed solid. I was 100% convinced she was the one. I even introduced her to my family as my future wife, and she played the part well, charming, sweet, the perfect fiancée. But things started to shift about a year before the wedding. It was subtle at first. She became more secretive about her phone, started taking calls in private, disappearing for long periods when she said she was at work. I brushed it off, convinced she was just stressed with her job. She's a high-powered executive at a pretty big firm, and I knew her schedule was demanding. Still, I noticed little things, like her avoiding my eyes during certain conversations, or suddenly canceling plans without good reason. There was also the way she would be cold sometimes, almost detached. I'd ask her about her day, and she'd give me short, clipped answers, then change the subject. I figured maybe she was just overwhelmed, or maybe I was overthinking things. But deep down, I knew something was off. I started catching her in little lies, things that didn't add up. She said she was working late, but I'd see her car parked in the lot of some fancy hotel downtown. She told me she was at her sister's house, but her phone pinged from a completely different area. Nothing huge at first, just small things, but enough to plant a seed of doubt. Then came the night I found her phone. I wasn't snooping exactly, but I saw her phone lying on the counter unlocked. I usually wouldn't do that, but I was curious. I glanced at it, and there was a string of messages, flirty, intimate. Nothing explicit at first, but definitely very suggestive. The kind of stuff that made my stomach turn. I saw her talking to someone named CEO Mike. The messages weren't just professional stuff. They were filled with smirks, emojis, promises to meet up. My heart just dropped. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I froze, my mind racing. I felt a surge of anger and betrayal. All those late nights, all those just friend stories, and it was all a lie. She'd been lying to my face the entire time. I didn't even want to confront her then. I just stared at her phone, trying to process what I'd just seen. It felt like the ground was shifting beneath me. I knew Emily to be a bitchy, manipulative woman, and that made me even angrier. She's always been quick with excuses, quick to spin stories when she's caught in a lie. I wasn't surprised she'd be lying now. I just didn't expect it to hit me like a freight train. When I finally confronted her, she was dismissive and nasty. She told me I was paranoid, that I was overreacting, that I was jealous and insecure. She said it was nothing, just some dumb flirtation, and accused me of snooping and invading her privacy. She called me controlling, insecure, even said I was imagining things. But I knew better. I knew what I saw. I knew she'd been seeing him, Mike, the CEO, probably for months, and I knew I had to do something. I wasn't just going to sit back and let her lie her way out of it. I needed to find out how deep it went, how long she'd been lying, and what it all meant for us. After that night, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus. The image of those messages kept haunting me, her so-called flirtation, the way she dismissed my feelings, the way she looked at me with that fake, innocent smile when I confronted her. I started digging, going through her emails, her social media accounts. I didn't want to believe it, but I felt like I had no choice. I had to know the truth, no matter how ugly it was. What I found was even worse than I expected. There were more messages with Mike, pictures exchanged, even plans to meet up again. She'd been lying to me all along, hiding this affair for what had to be at least a year, maybe more. I found receipts for hotel bookings, supposed business trips that she'd used as cover stories but were clearly just excuses to see him. The worst part, I discovered that this wasn't some one-time thing. It was an ongoing affair. They had sex, I'm sure of it, because the messages were filled with desperation, longing, and explicit talk. She'd told him she loved him, that she was planning to leave me after the wedding, that she couldn't wait to be with him. I felt like my world was collapsing. All the trust I had in her, all the plans we made, everything I believed about us, gone in an instant. I couldn't even look at her the same way anymore. Every time I saw her, I saw a liar, a manipulator, someone who took my love and tossed it aside for some quick sex with a powerful man. My mind was racing. I started questioning everything. Did she ever love me? Was I just some placeholder she used until she got what she really wanted? How long had she been pretending to be the perfect wife, the perfect partner? One day, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to confront her again, this time prepared for a real talk. I sat her down in the living room, my hands trembling, voice tight. I threw the evidence at her, screenshots, messages, the hotel receipts. Her reaction, she flipped out. Started crying, yelling, calling me crazy, accusing me of invading her privacy again. She said I was paranoid and that I was ruining everything because I couldn't handle the truth. She told me she loved me but admitted she'd been having sex with Mike before we even got engaged, right before the wedding, she said, as if that made it okay. She laughed at me like it was some joke and told me that I should be glad she was honest now. Honestly, I felt numb. It was a punch to the gut, knowing she'd lied for so long, knowing she'd cheated on me with someone she worked with, someone who had everything I didn't. I wanted to break something. I wanted to scream. Instead, I sat there staring at her, trying to process what she just admitted. I felt a mixture of fury and despair. How could she be so callous, so manipulative? How could she lie about everything and then dismiss my feelings as if I was overreacting? That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept flashing back to all those moments, her sneaking around, the secret calls, the fake smiles, the lies. I felt betrayed, deeply betrayed. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I could have been so blind. I thought I knew her. I thought we had something real. Now I wasn't sure of anything anymore. I started questioning whether I'd been living a lie all along, whether the woman I was going to marry was just pretending to be the woman I thought I knew. It's crazy how fast everything can fall apart. One discovery, one confrontation, and suddenly your whole life feels like it's been built on sand. The thing that hurts the most, the fact that she lied so blatantly, so unapologetically, and still tries to act like she's the victim. That she's justified because she loved him and was confused. I've never felt so stupid, so angry, so broken. There's a part of me that wants revenge, but I don't even know what that looks like yet. All I know is I can't keep pretending everything's okay anymore. The days that followed that confrontation were a blur of chaos inside my head. I couldn't focus at work. I couldn't eat. Sleep was a distant memory. Everywhere I looked, I saw her face, her fake smile, her dismissive eyes, the sneer she used when she thought I wasn't looking. I started distancing myself from friends, avoiding family gatherings. Honestly, I was just trying to process the betrayal, trying to figure out how I was supposed to move forward with her still in my life, even if just as my wife in name only. But I also started planning. I knew I couldn't just let her get away with it. She had lied, cheated, and manipulated me for over a year. That kind of betrayal doesn't just disappear overnight. I needed to understand how deep this went, how much she'd been hiding. I couldn't trust her anymore, not even a little. So I decided I would set a trap, something to catch her off guard, to see how far her deception went without her suspecting I was onto her. I started by installing a hidden app on her phone, one that would log her messages and calls, and I worked on gathering more evidence. I also reached out to a private investigator I knew, someone who specialized in infidelity cases. I needed proof, undeniable proof, that she was still cheating, even after I confronted her. The thought of her sneaking around behind my back again made my stomach turn. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so naive. One morning, I found her acting even more distant, more irritable. She snapped at me over breakfast, told me I was paranoid and controlling again. Inside, I was seething. I knew she was hiding something, she always was. I had the evidence I needed and I was about to use it. That evening, I set up a camera in our living room, nothing obvious, just a small one aimed at the sofa where she usually sat. I wanted to see if she would slip up, if she'd meet someone again or do something suspicious. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the whole nightmare in my head, her lies, the sex with Mike, the betrayal, all the vows we made, all the promises she broke. I felt betrayed in a way that's hard to put into words. It's not just the sex, it's the manipulation, the lying, the way she made me think I was crazy for even suspecting her. I hated her for it. I hated myself for not seeing it sooner. But mostly I hated that I still loved her, even after everything. The next day, I got the footage from the camera. My heart pounded as I watched. Nothing major happened, just her sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone looking tense. But I knew it was only a matter of time before she slipped up again. I also checked the messages on her phone, more flirtatious texts with Mike, heated exchanges, promises to meet. It was clear she hadn't stopped. She was still lying, still hiding things from me. I felt the rage boiling inside. How could she be so callous? How could she betray me this way, then have the nerve to act like everything was normal? That evening, I decided I had enough. I was going to confront her again, this time with everything on the table. I sat her down, played her the video, showed her the messages. Her reaction was immediate. She got defensive, started crying, then shouting. She called me crazy, said I was stalking her, that I was ruining her reputation. She insisted she loved me, that it was all a mistake, that she was confused. She told me she'd never really loved Mike, that it was just sex, a mistake she'd made during a rough patch. She even accused me of being the one who was unfaithful, just to turn the tables. That was the moment I realized her lies had no end. She was a master of manipulation, turning things around, making herself seem innocent, even a victim. I looked at her and felt a wave of disgust wash over me. How could someone be so selfish, so willing to destroy everything we had? I knew then I had to decide whether I was going to stay and try to fix this or cut my losses and get out before I lost myself completely. The truth was, I was exhausted, emotionally drained. Part of me still loved her, but another part was furious. Furious at myself for trusting her, furious at her for betraying me, furious that she could lie so convincingly, so easily. I kept asking what I did wrong, why I wasn't enough, why she needed someone like Mike. The whole situation felt surreal. I knew I couldn't keep living in this chaos, but I also knew that I needed to confront her one last time, either to end it or to get some real answers. Either way, I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. That confrontation was the breaking point. After showing her the evidence, her reaction only proved how manipulative she could be. She gasped, then started crying, but it was genuine tears. It was more like a performance, a way to make me feel guilty for catching her. She kept insisting she loved me, that she was just weak, and begged me to forgive her. Said it was a mistake, that she was confused, that Mike was just some idiot she was screwing around with for months but never loved. I couldn't believe her words. They sounded rehearsed, like she had practiced them in front of a mirror. I stood there staring at her, feeling this mix of rage and sadness I'd never experienced before. I wanted to scream, to break something, to make her understand how much she'd hurt me. But I also felt this crushing ache inside, like my heart was shattering. I couldn't look at her without feeling disgusted. She kept pleading, saying she'd do anything to fix it, to prove her love. But honestly, I was already done. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut so many times I couldn't breathe anymore. That night I stayed up long after she went to bed. I kept replaying everything, the lies, the sex, the betrayal, and I realized I'd reached a point of no return. I couldn't keep pretending she was innocent or that I could fix this mess. My trust was gone, shattered into pieces. I started thinking about what I wanted, what I deserved. I knew I couldn't stay with someone who lied to my face for so long, who secretly cheated on me right before our wedding, and then had the nerve to cry and beg to stay. I decided I needed to plan my exit, not just for the sake of revenge, but for my own sanity. I couldn't keep living in this toxic environment, constantly questioning everything I believed about her, about us. I made a list of what I needed to do: get my own apartment, start sorting out my finances, talk to a lawyer just in case. I knew I had to be smart about it. I didn't want her to know I was onto her fully until I was ready. That meant more surveillance, more evidence gathering, and planning my next move carefully. The most shocking thing I realized during this process was how much her betrayal had unmasked her true character. She's been so bitchy, so dismissive, so full of lies. She's good at pretending, but deep down she's selfish and manipulative. I always thought she was the one, the partner for life, but now I see her for what she really is: a liar, a cheat, someone who's willing to destroy our relationship for some fleeting sex with a powerful man. That realization made me angry in ways I'd never known before. It also made me feel a strange sense of clarity. I knew I had to get out, not just to save myself from further heartbreak, but to reclaim my dignity. I started to distance myself from her emotionally, even physically. I kept my phone close, watched her every move, and kept my guard up. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me again. I was determined to protect myself, to get out of this nightmare with whatever dignity I had left. But at the same time, I couldn't help feeling devastated. I'd built a life with her, shared moments, hopes, dreams, and now it all felt like a lie. I kept asking myself how someone I loved could do this, how she could lie to my face about the most important thing in the world, our future together. Honestly, I don't know what's worse, knowing she cheated or knowing she's been lying about it the whole time. It's like I've been living in a nightmare and I still don't know how I'm going to wake up from it. All I know is I have to get out of this toxic nightmare before it destroys me completely. I'm just waiting for the right moment, the perfect time to make my move and start rebuilding my life, without her lies, without her betrayal, and hopefully without her in it at all. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became that I couldn't stay. I needed to get out and start over, clean break, no more pretending, no more lies. I started laying the groundwork quietly. I rented a small apartment nearby so I could leave without her knowing right away. I started packing some essentials when she wasn't home, always making sure she wasn't suspicious. Every night I'd go over plans in my head, how to tell her, how to leave, how to keep my dignity intact. I knew she'd try to manipulate me again if I gave her the chance, so I had to be careful. The hardest part was preparing myself emotionally. I'd been blindsided, betrayed so deeply I felt shattered. But I knew I couldn't let her see that. I had to be cold, calculated. I kept reminding myself she wasn't the woman I thought she was. She was just a manipulative liar who'd thrown everything away for some meaningless sex and some fleeting power. That realization, as bitter as it was, gave me some strength. I'd spent years building trust, and she'd spent just as long tearing it down with her lies. I had to reclaim my sense of self, even if it meant walking away from everything I'd ever wanted. One day, I finally decided I'd had enough. I slipped out of the house while she was at work, took my essentials, and moved into the apartment. I didn't tell her immediately. I just wanted to see how she would react when she found out I was gone. When she came home and saw I wasn't there, she called me, furious, accusing me of abandoning her, of cheating on her, of being the one who was unfaithful. I didn't bother responding. I just let her rant. I knew she'd tried to manipulate me again, but I was already several steps ahead. I had kept evidence, I had my plan, and I knew I was finally free. That night I stayed up late, feeling a strange mixture of relief and heartbreak. I had finally taken control, but at what cost? I loved her, still loved her, even after everything. But I also hated her for the lies, the betrayal, the way she'd used me. I kept asking myself if I'd ever be able to trust again, if I'd ever see her the same way. The truth is, I don't think so. Once you've been betrayed like that, it's hard to rebuild what's been broken. I felt like I was starting from scratch, alone, but somehow freer than I'd felt in months. In the quiet moments that followed, I realized that I couldn't change what she did. I couldn't undo her lies or her cheating. All I could do was decide what kind of life I wanted moving forward. The anger still flickered beneath the surface, but I knew I had to channel it into something constructive. I started talking to a lawyer, figuring out my rights, and planning how to get my share of everything we'd built. Our house, our savings, the future I'd thought was set. I knew I had to protect myself. From her trying to manipulate her way back in, or worse, trying to spin things to make herself look like the victim. Most of all, I'm trying to accept that she was never the woman I thought she was. She was just pretending, just playing a part until she could get what she wanted. That realization hurts. I mean, I loved her. I believed in us. But now I see her clearly. A liar, a cheat, someone who'd destroy everything we had for a few moments of sex and some power. I don't know if I'll ever forgive her, but I do know I have to walk away. For my sanity, for my dignity. I can't keep holding on to this illusion of a life that was built on lies. It's time to start over, even if it means feeling broken for a while. Looking back now, I realize that I've learned some harsh truths about trust and betrayal that I'll carry with me forever. I thought I knew her, thought we had something real. Turns out, that was just an illusion I clung to because I didn't want to face the fact that she was capable of so much deception. It's a brutal lesson, but one I had to learn the hard way. I've come to understand that sometimes, the person you love the most can also be the one who hurts you the deepest. Getting out was the hardest decision I've ever made, but it's also the one that saved whatever little bit of self-respect I had left. I don't pretend to have all the answers now. I still feel the sting of betrayal every day. But I've started putting the pieces of my life back together, slowly rebuilding from the ground up. I've learned to trust myself again, to listen to my instincts, and most importantly, to understand that my worth isn't defined by someone else's lies or betrayals. To anyone who might find themselves in a similar situation, don't ignore the signs, no matter how small they seem. Don't make excuses for someone who's lying to your face, no matter how much you love them. Because once trust is broken, it's almost impossible to fix. The pain might stay with you for a long time, but eventually you'll find your strength again. You'll learn to see things clearly and to value yourself enough to walk away from betrayal. I've realized that revenge isn't really about hurting her back. It's about reclaiming my life and dignity, about refusing to be a victim of her lies any longer. I don't wish her ill. I just want to move forward, free from the shadow of that betrayal. My story is about hitting rock bottom and finding a way back up. It's about understanding that sometimes the only way to heal is to let go of what was broken, no matter how much it hurts. I'm still healing, still learning, but I know now that I deserve honesty and respect, and I won't settle for anything less.